Hey guys, if you've never seen my face before, my name's Emma. Welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about the American Royals book series. So if you've read it or if you haven't, feel free to stick around. I will say explicitly when I'm going to do spoilers. So if you're looking for something new to read, maybe like a beach read, or you're just kind of interested in what this whole thing's about, then this video is for you. Now, quick disclaimer, I am filming this a little late at night. I'm actually getting my wisdom teeth out tomorrow, which I'm quite scared about, but I've been very good about sticking to my uploading schedule this summer. Hopefully you guys have noticed. So I definitely still want to get the weekly video out, so I'm going to film it now. But I'm probably going to be out of commission for the next week. So if you haven't already watched my last video, also you should go check it out. It's a little bit of a different type of video for me. I digitally cataloged my wardrobe, but I think it's really interesting, especially because you can like watch it for my personal style or what I'm packing for college, or even if you're just curious, like, hey, what clothes does she have? I also thrifted a lot of them, so I find that that's all right. Disclaimers over. Let's talk about this book series. Okay, so American Royals is a book series published by Catherine McGee. The first one came out in 2019, second one 2020, third one 2022, and fourth one 2023. So these are all relatively recent books, but I don't know exactly how popular they've become actually. I honestly found them through a bookstore. Like there was a recommendation, you know how sometimes employees will write them like on a card. Anyway, I thought it was interesting and I thought it might be kind of a good fluffy book, and I've kind of been leaning more into the fluffy books this summer, especially for reading, just because I know that when I go to college I'm gonna have to do a lot of academic reading, and I just want to keep myself reading, you know, like keep going through those books, make sure I'm like reading and not just like wasting time doing other stuff basically. So this is why I picked up this book series. Now the concept right off the bat is pretty easy to guess, I'd say, just from like the title and everything. It's about American royals. It is about what would happen if George Washington, instead of becoming the first president of the United States, became the first king of the United States. And this even, I guess, like theme begins, well, not this theme, this proposition begins a theme that is prevalent throughout this entire series. And it's basically just like a fantasy rewrite of history. And I didn't find it too bothersome because honestly, that's not what the books focus on, but every so often they'll have like a very strange historical fact, like, oh, Hawaii is still a country, Canada's a country, all this stuff, like, oh, by the way, the Romanovs are still alive. Like there's all this weird history rewriting that, again, this is kind of like a beach read, like not that much of a serious book, but as someone who likes history, like it would take me out of the book periodically. And just the fact that there's American royals was one of those things that I was like constantly second guessing and being like, am I hallucinating? Like, hello. And I get that this is fiction, so like no one's probably gonna think as hard about it as I did, but the Romanovs one especially really threw me for a loop. I was like, hello? So you're telling me that somehow America becoming a monarchy prevented the overthrow of the Russian imperial family? Like, I don't know. Again, I just don't think too hard about it is my PSA. But anyway, so like I said, the kind of pitch of the series is what if like the Washingtons were the first royal family, whatever. So our main character is Beatrice. Again, this is non-spoilers. I will tell you when there's spoilers. And it kind of centers around her life and then also her twin sister. So it has four perspectives. It's from Beatrice's point of view. She is the future queen of America. However, she's just like a princess at the moment. And then also it is her sister Sam, who is very clearly kind of like based on Princess Margaret of like the UK. At least that's what it seemed like to me. Like they were very similar. I don't know, the way they're portrayed in the media, like in the book, whatever, is similar. You have to let me know if you thought that as well. So there's Sam, and then there's Nina, who's Sam's best friend, who's a total commoner. Like her mom just worked for the palace, but she's very related to Sam and Sam's twin brother, Jeff. So that's why she's in the plot. And then there's Daphne, who's kind of like our main antagonist villain, who's a little bit on her social climbing game. She previously dated Jefferson, and that's basically like all you have to know about her, at least until like you keep reading the book, because again, I'm not trying to spoil it. So something interesting about this book is it reads very much like a TV show, I'd say. If you're a fan of Gossip Girl, I'd really recommend you read this book, because all the crazy plot twists and like writing quirks that are present in the Gossip Girl show are very much central to this book. One thing that's very nice about it, especially that I liked that made me read all 4 books in this series, is that there's not really much like downtime. There's always something going on. Whatever's happening in the plot at the moment is leading to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. There's really like no dull moments. And I think in a book you can either get, I don't know, there's so many different types of books you can read, right? But in my mind, how I think about it is you can have like an entertaining book with good prose, book with good prose, not entertainment or like pure entertainment. And then obviously there's like other categories. But this book falls into the category of absolutely pure entertainment. Like this is for, I don't know exactly how to say it, but it's basically like it keeps your attention. Like it really does. It just keeps going and going. So I'd really recommend this if you're kind of like, I don't really like reading because it's a little dull. Like books don't really grasp my attention. If you like any sort of like teen drama show, if you enjoyed Maxton Hall, if you enjoyed even The Crown a little bit maybe, although this is definitely like a more teeny bopper-ified version of The Crown. So I don't know if I would necessarily recommend all that, but you know what I mean? Like any sort of royalty and stuff. It's interesting just to read it for like the kind of comical rewrites of history. Like, I don't know, in universe, like, I don't know. There's just so many things. Like, for example, California was its own country for a little bit, and it's called like Orange. At least I think it's California. Anyway, there's so many things, and like just reading the book for like the little idiosyncrasies and like random world building things is kind of worth it in my opinion, just because again the book keeps you so like entertained that it's almost worth it just to like check it out and see like how the author does it, I guess. Now this book also does focus a lot on like relationships, obviously, because I said it was like a little bit more teeny bopper stuff, and there's a lot of I think clickbait on the internet about like, oh, this is kind of like very cliche and trope heavy because like all these cliche things happens, like falling for a bodyguard. I'm not gonna say who, but you know what I mean. And I actually frankly would disagree, because I think that American Royals does a good job of almost leaning into the cliche nature. Like, for example, another like really funny fact in this book that I found is that part of like the Washington crest or like the royal family things are like cherries because of the cherry tree or something like that. Like there's just so many like tongue-in-cheek things that make me think, at least in my mind, that the book isn't really taking itself that seriously. And so when people take it really seriously and like, oh, this is so cliche, like her falling for that guy or like them being in a relationship, like stuff that happens later in the book that I'm obviously not going to talk about until I do the spoilers section, I'm just kind of like, have you even like read this book? Because I feel like it's very tongue-in-cheek about the whole like American Royals attitude, the rewriting history. Like it's self-aware in my mind, and you'll have to let me know if that's like just my opinion and if other people found it to not be self-aware. But I just think the way it presents it and all like the different historical facts and just like the way it presents the world, it doesn't even really try to make it like super believable or accurate, but that's almost what makes it entertaining, because you can just kind of like roll with it. Like there are some things, like I said, like the Romanovs, I feel like I'm saying like a lot, that make you kind of raise your eyebrow where you're kind of like, there's like, again, you're kind of like, hey, how are the Romanovs still alive? But again, those are like really nitpicks, and I think the book does a good job of not drawing your attention to, again, kind of these unbelievable things. I think there's so much going on that it's not really a focus of the book, and that's why I think it's almost tongue-in-cheek, because you're really not, it's not drawing attention, it's not trying too hard to be something believable, basically. And I find it good, like I think it does a good job of that, because it's just fun, and like you get into the world, you get into the people, the fake tabloids, like I don't know, it's just so interesting, and not even interesting in a genuine way. Again, like I said, this is not high literature. Do not get my enthusiasm confused as being like, this is the best book ever. This is an entertaining book. And that is what I will stand behind, absolutely. There may be errors and like funny stuff they put in the book, but it's entertainment. And like I said, I've been on my beach read kind of grind. Like I've been trying to pick out books that are kind of in that category, because I'm trying to do the light reading, like I said. And I just think this fits so well. Really, there's like no downtime in this book. And I really think it would be a great book for anyone to read if they were kind of like, I don't know, just maybe weren't as much of a fan of like slower books and wanted something interesting and kind of drama, which can be fun sometimes. So yeah. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about spoilers. So this is your spoiler warning, spoiler section. I'm not going to go into like all the books. I'll tell you if I switch books and if I feel like talking more about the rest of them. But for now, we're going to talk about the first one, the spoilers for the first book. So basically we start off with Beatrice, who's the Queen of America. Her dad's king, whatever. And there's just like all this stuff going on. Honestly, the main things that happen in this book are kind of like Beatrice's relationship with her bodyguard, Connor. If you've read the book, hopefully you've read the book. If you're staying to this point, read the book. You should. You really should. It like is such a fast read, honestly. So anyway, the main like kind of points of conflict are like Beatrice's relationship with her bodyguard, Connor. Then Sam's like relationship with Beatrice's meant to be Teddy. And it seems like Sam really likes him. So it's like a big kind of point of contention, and that's something I have a problem with later on in the series is they kind of brush away Sam's affection and like interest in Teddy, who's again Beatrice is like basically she's probably going to get set up with him because her dad is like pushing her to find a husband and she doesn't really know why yet, but basically that's what's going on. So anyway, one thing I don't appreciate is they kind of brush away Sam's like interest in Teddy in later books as being like, oh, she was childish and wanting something Beatrice liked. But if you really read that first book, like they have a spark in the beginning, and I find it so weird how like they brush it away in later books being like, oh, Sam was just being immature. Like, no, I think she did actually like him, and it really sucks that the one like I don't know, not the one, but at least in universe, because this is like the first time we've met Sam. If you're starting from book one, the one person she like has interest in just ends up being Forrest's sister. And it's like, no wonder she kind of acts out because it just reinforces like how she's the second. Again, it's like such a Princess Margaret, like ified character in my opinion. So anyway, so that's like one of the points of contention. And then there's also Nina and Jefferson's relationship and Jefferson's relationship with Daphne. So Jefferson is Nina's twin, remember? And basically Daphne, it was his longtime girlfriend, but then him and Sam went on like a gap year, basically like abroad, whatever, and they broke up before that when he hooked up with Nina, who's Sam's best friend. Okay, again, this is what I mean, like this book is just like there's no downtime, always something going on. So anyway, it's about like their relationship, and honestly Daphne is one of my favorite characters in these books. Am I a Daphne apologist? I don't know. See, here's the thing, not favorite isn't I'm like, oh my gosh, she would be my best friend, she's so morally righteous. Like, no, everyone knows she's not, whatever. But I find her perspective so interesting, and just like, I don't even know, I just find it very intriguing as a reader, because I think that a lot of the characters, I don't know, again, because it switches perspectives, you'll automatically have characters you like and characters like you prefer a little bit less. But for me, Daphne's perspective is so interesting because it's so like, I don't keep saying interesting. Basically, to me, it's intriguing to hear the perspective of someone who really like has been forced into this life and idea of herself by her parents. And sometimes it's really frustrating with her because you're like, you don't think for yourself, girl. Like, come on. Really? Like, you know, deep down. But the real thing, especially as you read the later books, is you realize that like she really has been traumatized as a kid of her parents' like expectations of her. And I just feel so bad for her. Like, it's no excuse for all the things she does, but every single time, at least, again, I'm halfway through the fourth book right now, so I don't know how it ends, so don't spoil for me, but I'm sure by the time this video is out, I will have finished it. So honestly, you can comment down below. But basically, I always just get so frustrated with her because I'm like, you could probably own up all this stuff to Jefferson and like present the true you, and like arguably he would still like you. Okay, not necessarily, because obviously she's done all these terrible things, but I think that if in any of her interactions with Jefferson she would have been like, oh hey, my parents are like low-key kind of abusive, like I really love you, but I don't know how my parents' relation. Anyway, we know she doesn't love him, but you know what I'm saying. Like, even if as friends she just owned up to Jefferson and was like, I'm under a lot of pressure. My parents actually spent my whole college tuition on like all this stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe that's just a me opinion. And then of course there's Nina and Jefferson's relationship with, honestly, I'm not upset didn't last. If you read to like the second book and stuff, did not last. Again, not really sure how the series ends. Comment down below, honestly, if you know, like whatever, just say so, because again, I'll be finished with the book by that point. But basically, I think I didn't mind that it ended because it felt very childish, like she'd had a crush on him forever, whatever, and then they finally date, and it's just like like not but I feel like it's very, I don't know about accurate, but kind of, it's very believable that the idea of someone that you build up in your head, for example, like a childhood crush over many years, doesn't necessarily live up to like the real life interactions and life with them. And that's not to say I didn't think she loved him. I definitely think she does, because obviously like Daphne doesn't. But I just think their relationship ending I'm actually like not too upset about. And I'm currently on the 4th book where, spoilers, she is starting to see Jamie, the Prince of Canada, and I like her better with him. And I'm really just hoping she doesn't kind of revert back to being like, oh my God, I love Jefferson. Like, please, girl. We've been done this. Like, you did this already. Yeah, I don't know. I really like this series. It's really kept me entertained. And like I said, right now I'm just trying to keep reading. I feel like I've been repeating that over and over again, but that is the goal. And I don't know. I just think it's really fun. It's really entertaining. There's never a dull moment. There's always something going on. And honestly, I like really applaud the author for just packing so much in, but not only packing so much action and like conflict in, but making it like semi-believable. Again, like I said, the historical background and like the setting of the world aren't necessarily believable, but the conflict and like motivations with characters are very believable. I find that that's a big like appeal of this book, at least for me, or this series, at least for me, where it's like, sure, there are people doing messed up and sometimes over exaggerated things, but is there genuinely like a reason? For example, like Daphne, her parents, or like stuff like that. Is there a genuine reason, like if you thought about this logically, for them to be doing that? And the answer is always yes, which I find very commendable, because sometimes when you're trying to kind of write an action-packed book, I feel things will just come out of left field, really, and authors don't necessarily always delve into making sure it like makes sense with the character and their motivations. And I feel like American Royals does a really good job of that. And for like, again, a little bit of a teeny bopper series, I think that's really impressive. So those are all my thoughts and little rambles on American Royals. This video is a little all over the place because, again, exhausted, and I'm literally getting up for my wisdom teeth surgery in 9 hours. And I know that doesn't sound like very much, but obviously I'm sleeping and then I'm waking up. Anyway, that is all. I really hope you enjoyed this week's video. It was definitely a little bit all over the place, but I wanted to get something out for you guys. And please let me know any of your thoughts on this series, because I really would love to hear it. I love some good discourse about books. Obviously, I love to yap about books. That's why I have this channel. So please, 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 if you stayed till this point in the video, leave your thoughts down below. If you're going to read it, which I hope you haven't stayed this far if you haven't read it, because I just spoiled a bunch of stuff, but some people do that. Anyway, if you're going to read it, or if, for example, you have read it and you have like different thoughts than mine, I'd love to hear it. Just keep it respectful in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.